let's get this going. Hey, it's great to be here, by the way, except sitting here versus sitting in the audience. And this was a lot of fun to put together. I had several people ask me about the 12 elements of a successful photograph. It's something that PPA, Professional Photographers of America, put out years ago. And that's when judges are judging your photo, or you may have just heard this and people say, oh yeah, that's got a really good set of the 12 elements. So they're constantly referring to the 12 elements. And so I've had people say, what are they talking about? And so that's why I'm doing this presentation. Also, even if you don't know about the 12 elements, this is going to help you get to the next level. And of course, it's not advancing. Let's try that. So, starting with the Ellen Show, and if somebody, I always do this, so forgive me if some of you have already seen this. And look, I have in Ellen DeGeneres' honor, I'm wearing Converses. So not diapers, Ron, but 17 or 18 years old. If you haven't figured out, oops, let's get to it. If you haven't figured out, that's me. Right. I know, turn it on. That will help. There we go, that's me. As a teenager,
Nice
photographing
hand, Ellen.
an event. Check out that guy's leisure suit. You can start to figure out the date on that. Yeah, there you go.
Be sure.
And then I worked my way through college as I was studying first. I have a degree in scientific technical communications and also a degree in engineering, but I worked my way through school as a photographer, and that was just, what can I say? It's just my thing. And so I have always loved being a photographer. Those are negatives that I'm holding, just so that in case you didn't recognize them. And then behind me is those are the darkroom trays behind me. And oh, and I haven't aged a bit, right?
Those look like inner negatives, right? On that photo.
What? Those are black and.
They call them inner negatives. You take them off a 35mm.
Yeah, it was a 35mm black and white. It was probably Tri-X.
Yeah, and then you blow, in order to blow them up, you do an inner negative, a larger negative of the 35mm. That's
No.
what it looked like.
No, those are just 35mm names.
Okay.
So here's just what I'm doing now. I photograph for Colorado Serenity Magazine. I photograph a lot of events. I just, you know what? I've lived in Evergreen for so long. I just love Evergreen. And I want to put it in the spotlight as often as I can, except not get a whole lot of people to move here. I'd rather avoid that. But I just really enjoy going to all these events, and this is the Out and About page in Colorado Serenity Magazine. Speaking of, this hasn't even been published yet. Speaking of Serenity, I think they're going on their 30th year this year. Can you believe that, as a magazine? And these are just photos from this year covers. That was July. The first one was February. That's July. Here's the art fair. I had to change out. When she was holding that, it said Mount Evans. And I had to change that out to her updated version of the photo. Also, I mean, this is the wonder of post-processing and stuff like that. Just to let you know, her name tag was flipped. So it was the back of her name tag, like with the drink ticket and stuff showing. And I didn't catch it at the time. So I had another photo of her where her name tag was right. And I changed out the name tag, changed out the Mount Blue Sky. And then this, I have to tell you, was the most boring exam room that you would ever, it looked just like a jail cell. And so I made it purple. So, I mean, things which really messed up the printers because some of my colors were out of gamut, and I don't even want to go into that. But I learned a lot about keeping my images in gamut so that they would print right. And then I have a studio. It's in the Stone House, which also happens to be where Colorado Serenity is. And it's great to be, to have a place where I have all my lights and things like that. And so
You're in the Stone House now?
yeah, I'm in the Stone House. I was in the State Farm building for over 2 years, but they needed, it was always understood that if she ever needed my space, that she could have it back. And she needed my studio, so I had to move. That was earlier this summer. Here's my daughter. So I like doing headshots. This is Becca. And then I also had to photograph this person who was really,
Oh, boy.
and then I photographed seniors. This guy did not want to be photographed, but look at how good he looked, you know. I guess that's what you are when you're young. It just doesn't matter. You just always look good.
He has hair.
Yeah, there you go. And, sports, love photographing sports and models. And then we have such beautiful, scenery around here. It's easy. It's easy to find a nice place to photograph senior portraits around here. I am certified professional photographer from PPA, Professional Photographers of America. I had to take a test that was both a written test, there's 100 questions on the exam, and then also do this special setup. I mean, they had this setup that everybody who was getting certified had to photograph this, the mannequin's name is Sherman. To photograph Sherman with styrofoam balls and stuff like that. So I passed that and got that. And then I got my master's. So I have Master of Photography now. And that took me 3 years.
Sorry, a minute.
What?
You go back to your,
To Sherman?
yes, thank you. Could you, for the sake of, what did they have you do? What did they want to see?
Okay, so highlights and shadows and depth of field and the colors. So you can see on the ball that it's not blown out. And I mean, all right, admittedly, this is a lousy projector. We all know that. But even so, you can see that the ball has texture throughout. And that there's no, the shadows are not blocked up. The black just doesn't look like a big blob of black. And those are the kinds of things they were looking for.
Thank you.
You bet.
Were you allowed to make that right in post, or did you have to
No.
submit the raw shot?
Yes, that was raw. That's a very good question. And I belong to a bunch of professional organizations, 2 international or 2 national and 2 here in Colorado. You do not have to be a professional photographer to be in these professional organizations. So just to let you know, they've got some great benefits to be members. So I would highly recommend that you research some of these, especially the Professional Photographers of Colorado, because it's a great group of people and you get to meet a lot of photographers and they have a lot of resources for you just here in the state. The Guild, the professional, in the lower right-hand corner, the Professional Photographers Guild of Colorado Springs is an amazing group of photographers, and they're all based in Colorado Springs. And I end up driving to Colorado Springs 5-6 times a year because they're always doing something really cool. In fact, Tina went with me, Tina and Leslie Hampel and Christy Gonzalez we went to see Unmesh Dinda. If you know Unmesh, he is the Piximperfect Photoshop guru. They flew him from India to come to Colorado Springs, and we were there for a 2-day lecture from Unmesh. And if you haven't, here again, Google Unmesh Dinda or Google PixImperfect and see what that's all about. But he came to Colorado Springs. And then I just found out on Sunday that I won an award. So I had to put it in here. It's called the Judges Award from ASP, and it's called the Ball Busters, if you can read that. And so here it is. Oh, that doesn't look too bad. So, so you can see this guy is probably in a lot of pain. And I shot this, Bill and I were together in Cheyenne Frontier Days. So thank you, Bill, for taking me to Cheyenne Frontier Days so I could do that. But you can see in this photo that there's first off the title, which helps with the storytelling because they kind of go hand in hand. The digital frame around the photo, the technical excellence, all of these we're going to be covering. They're all part of the 12 elements. By the way, if you're interested, here's the original photo. And you see, obviously it's in color. Can you see though, how the red, you're not seeing the cowboy, you're seeing all the red, right? And also there's this guy right here, he's kind of distracting, right? So that's why I made it a black and white so that I didn't have to worry about all that distracting red. I cropped out the guy on the right. I just tightened it up so that there was more about the cowboy and not about the distractions. And those are some of the things that that we're going to be talking about. By the way, before we even get started, I want to let you know that I'm going to be using the term photographer as we go along. Some people say maker. I mean, oh my gosh, now with all the post-processing that's done, people are using the terms maker or creator. I'm just going to go with photographer for this, but I just wanted to just throw that in there. If you happen to be with another, talking to a judge or something like that, and they're constantly saying the maker or the creator, they're just talking about the photograph. So, and also be keeping in the back of your head when you're looking at these photos, why do I like this? And see if you start to get an opinion about what is making that successful photo. And also, why do I hate this photo? I mean, there might be some in here that you just don't like, or they're disturbing. I actually am trying to make more and more of my photos make people uncomfortable, because that's an emotion too. And that's one of the 12 elements. So let's talk about the 12 elements. That's going to be our goal tonight, is to understand those 12 elements. The 12 elements are impact, technical excellence, creativity, style, composition, presentation, color balance, center of interest, lighting, subject matter, technique, and storytelling. And as I mentioned earlier, this is something that PPA has been talking about for years. They also, Brian Welsh and Lisa Dillon put this mind map together. And I kind of, this makes more sense to me than just seeing it as a bulleted list. But you can see the impact is in the middle. And impact is pretty much the number one thing about a photo. I mean, certainly it has to have technical excellence. It's gotta be in focus. It's gotta have, you know, the proper exposure. But impact is always right in the front of the minds of when you see the photo, and how you're going to perceive whether you like it or not. Just as a little aside, you may, well, here, I'm going to go back one. See this scoring over here? So the scoring is what judges are using in order to calculate where your photo lands when it's being judged. And that's in printcompetition.com. That's a great place to look for contests. You can see that the Colorado's contest is coming up. And it's right, where is it? It's in here somewhere. There it is. Colorado's competition is for the entire year is on October 20th. So that's coming up. In fact, the deadline to get photos in for early bird is tomorrow. But if you're interested, there's also a late bird. What it was, early bird and late bird. There's also an extension too. But this is how you get better. You know what, when I started doing competitions, I thought, nah, this isn't for me. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of not that kind of person. Well, guess what? When I saw how much my photos improved by doing competitions and by having my photos judged, it just made me a better photographer. And I wish the same for you.
I can't read what it says on the top. What is that, the site? What is?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's printcompetition.com.
So if you could get your mouse over to that screen and dismiss that little bar,
Oh,
click on the OK.
where is?
You'll have to watch this. There you go.
Okay, where's the, oh, there's the
Ooh,
okay. I'm sorry, didn't know that was up there.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Okay. If you do go in there, there are things that you can see, you don't have to be a member. And so, that photo at the bottom has an example of judging and it has audio and it will give you an idea of how things are judged. These, does my mouse work when I do that? Oh yeah, okay. Geez, I didn't know that. Okay, so these people here, they recently, within the last year or so, got 100s, and you'll even know some of them. Cheryl's in here somewhere. Here's Cheryl Moore, who has spoken to us. Doug Bennett is right there. Ken is a Colorado person, so they're all they all scored 100, and I have to tell you that nobody scores 100. So when somebody scores 100, it's a really cool thing. The thing you don't want is to get less than 80. And a lot of people get scored 79 because the judges like it, but they don't like it that much. And this is one of my recent photos. And it scored a 79. Because that's, in fact, they even have what they call Club 79. And that's for people that they, because they just can't get into that 80, the 80 range. And so this photo, for whatever reason, well, I do know why they didn't like it. Why? Okay, I haven't gotten this is so recent, I haven't gotten the critique back, so I'm not sure. But I replaced the sky. And I think they didn't like how I replaced the sky. But I just thought it was really cool that you can see the pilot. You can even see its expression if you zoom in. And the photo is reading from right to left, or, well, actually what I'm going to be talking about this later, but it's facing in the right direction. And it didn't score well. So go figure, move on, right? Okay, here's, this one is called Missed It by That Much, and it scored a 91. And I received second place in the ASP's Images of Distinction. And Bill, I don't know if you've got one just like it.
What?
This was from the pit in Cheyenne Frontier Days.
Do you have one just like it?
Someone.
There you go.
Spot the shoot from that.
Yeah, I had,
Yeah.
it's, yeah. Okay.
You said it was, you shot it from pit.
Yeah, there's a pit in Cheyenne.
Right.
Okay, so first thing we're going to be talking about is impact. And the definition of impact is that it evokes an emotion. It could be humorous, shocking, you could be relatable as far as just like, oh yeah, I had a puppy just like that when I was a kid. Now all of a sudden the judge loves the photo because they relate to it. Or it doesn't have to be a judge, it can, anybody who's viewing the photo. And many people consider this the most important element. And there are two different kinds of impact, fleeting and lasting. And fleeting is when you look at a photo and you go, oh, wow, next. And that's, I mean, because you like it, but it doesn't necessarily stick with you. How about this one? I shot this is part of the polar plunge. But if you didn't know that, wouldn't you think this guy was being rescued from icy waters? The title of this one is Chilling Rescue. And I have it two ways. I've got it uncropped and cropped. I don't know if you like, which one do you guys like better? Uncropped, because that tells more of a story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Huh, I like them both. My candidate winner for the most lasting impact is a photo by Ben Shirk, who won the Grand Imaging Award in 2018. And the name of this photo is Till Death Do Us Part. And his vision was that he needed a man and a woman who were essentially being carried away by well, kind of like devils or something, demons. Here's a better look for it. The gentleman on the right, he saw mowing his lawn in the neighborhood and said, hey, can I have you model for me? And the woman is his mother-in-law, I think it was. So anyway, and all the hands are just friends' hands. He put it all together. There's a ton of symbolism in here. I don't know if you can see the cross. There's a cross back here and a lot of things in the background. And this photo to me just is so impactful. So I consider that. I mean, I've seen this photo for 8 years and it's still my favorite impactful photo. Let's go on to technical.
Back to that photo.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's black and white, but it's colored, correct?
Yes.
So, but I mean, it has a real impact on the coloration, at least for me.
Yes, I agree. Now, second is technical excellence. And those are the things that you would know instinctively. No sensor spots, everything's in focus. You want a good quality photograph. Everybody has seen the exposure triangle. Just make sure that your photos are properly exposed. Your ISO is as low as it can possibly be. And your aperture, depending on the type of depth of field you want, and also to stop the action with shutter speed. Also, the consideration for the proper exposure is to understand your histogram and pay attention to your histogram on the back of your camera instead of just looking at the back of your camera. Those are JPEGs. They're not near as telling as looking at a histogram. Also, your ISO nowadays with digital photos. I don't know about you, but I can shoot, 25,600 ISO on my camera. I mean, I wouldn't recommend shooting a photo that high, but it's amazing what you can do these days versus just 5 years ago. And you can see the difference in the grain. This is ISO 3200 and ISO 100. And you can see the difference in how this is noisy or grainy, and this is a clean image. So keep your 3200. I'm sorry. Yeah, 3200.
Oh, yeah. I'm seeing others here. Sorry.
And that's 100%, right?
Yeah, I would think. I'm not sure you can see these sensor spots, but if you are not familiar with sensor spots, that's the mirrorless bugaboo. And I've got, let me see, I've got one here. This photo was from 2007. Cameras have gotten much better at preventing sensor spots, but recognize that that's detracting from the quality of your photo. Let's see, I've got one here, one here. You can usually find them in places like solid skies and water and things like that. There's one there. I made this image darker so that you could find the sensor spots easier. But at least the horizon is straight. That's another thing that they look for when judging images.
Do sensor spots remain constant or can they show up anywhere along the frame?
If you have not cleaned your sensor, then you will have sensor spots in the same place until you get your sensor cleaned.
That just, that got something.
Oh, that's a possibility.
It's likely, but I only ask because when I turn my camera off, it automatically cleans the sensor.
Sure.
And when I turn it on, it cleans the sensor. But I have something that keeps rearing its ugly head and I figured it's probably either damage to the lens or something. So thank you.
Oh, well, change lenses.
Well, I can't.
No, oh.
I need to set the lens in, is what
Oh, well, I was gonna say, change lenses and see if it's still there.
It's not there. So the lens.
It's a lens.
Never mind, thank you. I
Okay,
didn't think about that for a second. Sorry to interrupt.
no worries.
Quick question.
Yeah,
Besides the sensor spot, there's also dead pixels. Do you ever run into that with the newer cameras?
oh, sure, hot pixels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look like the spots too.
Sure, they're different colors
Yeah,
typically. And so easy to fix in post, just use a little clone stamp,
Yeah.
spot healer or remove tool to get those, but you just have to be aware of them so you can get rid of them. But judges, that's something judges look for. Or think you've got a photo in a gallery and you've made it 3 feet by 4 feet. You're gonna see those sensor spots. You've got to be careful that your photo is spotless. I'm gonna talk about cropping for a minute. Not a great photo anybody would want hanging on their wall, I'm assuming, with a half-eaten elk in the photo. But everybody, it took me a while to realize this. We all shoot, if we're shooting essentially 35mm type DSLR mirrorless camera, you can change the ratio. You don't have to shoot 3:2, which is like a 4:6. Here's a square. All of a sudden, I've got a usable image because I don't have the dead elk in the photo anymore. It gives me more impact. And I have a square photo instead of a 4:6.
could you talk about that a little more? I understand what you're talking, changing the composition, so to speak. But does it affect your sensor? I mean, the quality of pixels coming in and stuff like that?
Oh, I'm not doing it in camera. I'm doing it after the fact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Here's another one that gives us just a different perspective, changing the font, giving the photo more impact by just bringing it in more. You can see, I mean, this is a beautiful picture of a cardinal. Not as much impact. And you know what? I love diagonal lines. And see this diagonal line here? I want to end this diagonal line. I want to work with that. So I cropped it a little bit. Now the diagonal line kind of points down to the corner, and this is a little nicer, but I still think I can do better. And so I'm going to do this, and that's the photo that I landed on. I thought that was had a little bit more impact. Anybody want to guess the title of this one? Cardinal direction. Okay, I kind of mentioned this earlier. I alluded to this. we all read Western civilization, we all read from left to right. And so your eye typically goes from left to right. And so as you're going along, you see the subject and you stop. It's like that's the end of the photo for you. You don't see this over here. But at the same time, you want the horses to have a place to move. That's another typical thing you'll hear judges say, got to have some breathing room. So here's that breathing room. They can look that way, but still you're dealing with this kind of a short viewing because you're not there. Well, flip it. And when you flip it, now your eye goes from left to right. You're enjoying all this sunset. Actually, I think it was sunrise. And there are the cowboys. So you get both. You get the sunrise and the cowboys.
I feel like I'm swimming upstream in photo.
Why?
I don't know, to me, I like the photo the other way. Yeah.
Well, you're weird.
I don't like.
No, that's why, no, that's why this is art. So that's fine if you like one way versus the other.
But you can easily flip those, you just look and see which one you like better.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, thank you, Ron. I will tell you. So here's a stream. Running from right to left. What if I flip it? Which do you like better?
I like the first.
Okay. Just keep this in the back of your head and think about, I'm gonna go back. This is the original and flipped. Just keep these ideas in the back of your head. Although if there's any writing in the photo, you can't do it. And in fact, Michael and I had a conversation about that earlier with his photo that made the cowboy left-handed by flipping it. Or if your photograph, if the photograph is something very recognizable, Grand Tetons or something, you can't flip that because people will notice. Okay. By the way, don't forget the basic stuff. I always ask myself, well, why am I photographing this? Is this worthy of me taking a photo of it? Proper exposure, is my horizon straight? We've already talked about that. And if there's something distracting the photo, then move to the left or the right, so it's not distracting. Okay, next on the list for the 12 elements is composition. Here again, think before you shoot. Where do you want the viewer's eye to go? Take that visual journey. We're going to discuss the rule of thirds and diagonal lines. Have a vision. I mean, looking at this, do you just kind of allow yourself to sort of float downstream? Actually, it would be upstream. But you draw your eye into the scene. Yeah, there you go. Or just this marmot, here's the rule of thirds, keep this in the back of your head too. Some people go like, oh, I don't like to follow rules. Well, you know what? Sometimes because they work. So just keep that as an idea. Here's some running horses. Tina knows this photo, right, Tina?
Yeah.
This one's called Neck and Neck. Here it is with the rule of thirds. So you can see that we've got a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. So those are the thirds in the photo. Here's some leading lines. Can you see the snow kind of creates its own leading lines there, diagonal across. And then there's more coming from behind. And then here it is with the rule of thirds. This is at Evergreen Lake. Also with the rule of thirds and with some nice diagonal lines. By the way, diagonal lines gives you power and movement. So the photo isn't as static. Kind of like the snort too. Here's the exit 254. And just looking straight down towards Chief Hosa. And thanks to the wildfire smoke for this one, we had some gorgeous sunrises and sunsets. But I wanted to use the leading lines of the lights to take you right down into the scene. This is the Fibonacci spiral. And so you kind of start, and you can flip this in any direction, but you can go so that your eye goes to the right or below if you have it rotated. Here the image sort of starts kind of softly to the left and crescendos off to the right. And then this is in our bay window. Just having fun for a sunrise. And when people see this photo, they go like, wow, you have clean windows. And the answer is no. I photoshopped the heck out of those windows. I had all those- Here's another example where the lines are leading you into the subject. And also it gives you kind of a golden triangle there. Okay, the next on the 12 elements is lighting. And so with lighting, you want that illusion because photographs are two-dimensional. You want that illusion of third dimension. And with that, white or a light color brings the object closer to you and black pushes it away. And so you want to use that to your advantage. This will probably make you seasick, so I won't, but it's showing the difference between what white and black can do. Also be aware when you're photographing portraits, if somebody's got big ears, you don't want those lit, or a big nose, you know, I mean, be aware of these things when you're photographing. There's this Lachlan was my assistant for a while. And you can see that he doesn't have big ears, but you can see that his ears, you don't notice his ears because they're in shadow. And then if you don't have a studio and light, because you're shooting in nature, then you've got to wait. So here, actually Leslie Hampel and I were in Colorado National Monument, and we knew this was a great spot, right? But the light is flat. So waited a while and the sun rose and now the light's too harsh. You know, it kind of went from sort of like the Three Bears, right? And so now there's too much light. And that's called harsh light. Well, some call it harsh light. But then finally the light settled in and we got some really nice demarcations between the shadows and the light, and it's not too harsh and it's not too flat, and call that Goldilocks light. So can you see this? What would you do to this photo to make it better? Well, you're right about that. How about what we were talking about, left to right? Oh, Ron, you'll say you like it this way. All right, well, how about this?
But you work on the sky, so.
I did work on the sky. Are you kidding?
I actually, I like the first one better.
Okay,
Contrast would be another thing.
but gosh, all of a sudden I've forgotten the name of this. Oh, Windswept. This is Windswept. Most important is that you want to maintain in light shadow. You want to maintain that detail in the highlights and in the shadows. And here's an example of this where you can see what's going on back here in the trees. Can you see that? And then here's another shot, and the shadows are pretty, there's pretty dark in here. They don't have as much detail. And you want to be aware that those shadows are that you can see something in those shadows. It's not like looking in a black hole. The next is style. And that's essentially how a photographer uses lighting. and the subject to create a recognizable subject. Or a recognizable look. So I'm sure you think about people and what their style is, and you see somebody's photo, and without even knowing it, you say, oh, that's so-and-so's photo, because you know, because you recognize their style. Here's some of my style from rodeo. I think I can say that my style is black and white rodeo photos and clever titles. This is Clown Toss. Here's my style. Barrel Ahead. That was for the barrel racing. Get a Grip. And Grabbing the Bull by the Horns. By the way, I would be remiss in not talking about AI for just a second. Because that's kind of coming, guys. If you're not keeping track of what AI can do, you might want to just make sure that you're in the loop with AI. Here's what I did. This is 100% word generated, where I prompted it. I wanted a photo of flamingos underwater with bubbles, yada, yada. I mean, I said the whole thing, and this is what I got. I also, just for fun, wanted a depressed teddy bear who was losing its stuffing. And, you know, this is not my photo. This was 100% generated by AI. And how can I use this? How would I want to use this? Well, some of my seniors, they're into really interesting things. And I did not put her face in here, but I used this photo as a trigger for creating this Borg steampunk type of thing. You can imagine if I had a senior who wanted something like this, I wouldn't have to make the costume by hand. I can just use AI to create the environment.
See, I like that one. I wouldn't flip it.
Thanks, Ron.
So, you mentioned competitions, how did they discern AI or?
Okay,
Such a-
they have a special AI category.
Okay, but I mean, you know, for example, if you're just expanding a photograph.
Okay, so in the competitions, there are certain categories where you cannot do anything to the photo that you couldn't do in the darkroom. So, in other categories, you can remove telephone poles and stretch the image, you know, do a content aware scale or something like that. So you just have to follow the rules. So the judges know that that was allowed or that was not allowed.
Do the judges just trust you then? You're following the rules?
Well, you know, that's interesting. And for those on Zoom, the question was, do the judges trust you? And no, they don't, because you have to submit the original photo. So they know what the original photo looked like. Okay, presentation, another of the 12 elements. I think you've probably noticed during these, during my showing of the photos, that many of them have digital mats or what look like frames on them. And that helps to give it a finished look. And it also, it can enhance the photo. It can draw your eye into the photo more. And it's also part of the score. You've probably seen my photo Gulp. And here it is when I put it into a competition. I gave it a digital mat. I only know how to do digital mats in Photoshop. I haven't figured out if there's a way to do them in Lightroom. So, but if anybody needs help in how to make a digital mat, just holler at me. Here is, this is called Smoke and Mirror, and there it is with a mat. You can also buy digital mats. I bought this from a digital artist, and that's Desert Punk. And then on point is a local elk, and again, a mat that where I just dropped my photo in. Another of the 12 elements is center of interest. And you want the viewer to enjoy the journey through your photo. Where do you want that viewer to stop and pause and look at the photo? So, and then judges think to themselves, why the heck did they take that photo? Here's this one again. And it's giving us that journey going through the photo. It's like, oh yeah, that's a beautiful scene. Here's All Along the Watchman. This is the Watchman up here in Zion. I really had a hard time naming this one because this is the Virgin River. And I couldn't say anything about virgins. I mean, that would be awkward. So I went with the rock outcropping. Here is Only the Strong Survive. And I'm telling the story of the tree. We've got the sunrise here of the tree. And then you go along here, you've got this rock that's bringing you also to this point, and then all these dead trees. So that's what I'm doing to lead the eye to something interesting. Here's one that I just did in a mine, and I named it Claustrophobia, and the judges totally muffed saying claustrophobia, could not read claustrophobia. And so that's a lesson learned for me, is that judges, for whatever reason, might stumble on a title or not understand the title, or for sure don't put anything with a foreign language because they just won't get it. Just make it clear when they're seeing the photo. But this did not score well. And I think in part because the judge couldn't say claustrophobia.
Right, it's a fantastic picture, especially with the 3 lights that flow through that tunnel.
Well, thank you, because that's what
Keep going.
I thought until
Name change, it can be all different.
I don't know. I don't know. He just went claw. So anyway, can you see her needle? Because what the intent was to lead up with the black hand glove, with the glove, and then she's got the needle there. She must use this on herself. This is Botox. How about this? I was photographing a drummer from up above, and you can see I've got some triangles here. By the way, the rule of odds is that things 3s, 5s, 7s are more pleasing than even numbers. And you can see we've got 3 white drum heads. We've got a diagonal line here. And even his arms add to the diagonals. This went into an international competition and came in, I don't know, I guess I can say 32nd. It went up against the cutest Nigerian cowherd. There was no contest in comparing the 2 images, so.
Rule of odds doesn't work with nursing animals unless you have twins.
Okay, all right, well, there you go. I'll remember about nursing animals then, thank you. And also, speaking of nursing animals, the subject matter, you want to be true to your story. And you want the subject to sync with the story. And then also, if I can say this, as far as like with models and stuff, you want to be respectful to the model, and you don't want to direct them in anything that they're not comfortable doing. Although she put on this outfit, I didn't say anything. So I mean, if it's their idea, then you go for it. Color balance. Here's a color wheel. Color theory is very important for setting moods and making your photos more pleasing. Write this down if you're interested in color theory. The color.adobe.com. This is the color wheel that helps you understand about complementary colors, and analogous colors. Colors also have a mood. I guess I'll wait.
In the beginning, you had that photo where you had to, when they tested you.
I'm sorry.
The photo that you had at the beginning, where they had that white styrofoam and the crayons.
Oh, yeah, my test.
When I originally thought about, I saw that, it reminded me of the color wheel.
Oh,
Because you have the colors, the white and the black, to bring the detail on both of those, plus the colors at the same time.
sure. Well, color is very important. Or tonal range is important. And it can give you, it can help to enhance the photo. Here are some of the psychology of color. You've all kind of just think of all the fast food restaurants that in their logo, it's yellow and red, which has been determined to make you hungry. Also, King Soopers is yellow and red.
Is that on the website that?
What, the last one? This one, this is from Triple Wide Media.
This is being recorded and it will be up on the website.
Oh, good.
So this is why sunrises and sunsets are so pretty. And also red and green are complementary colors. They're opposite on the color wheel. So you can see here again, we've got the pleasant greens in the foregrounds and the red in the background. And we've got more reds and greens, also Christmas colors. And then how about a good old Bronco sunrise?
Can I ask you, do you play with color balance much when you're in those processes? I know stuff.
You know, you're right. Playing with color balance is hard. And, but yes, I do. And the more you do it, the better you get. And the better you can see it. I used to, my headshots all were kind of orange. I had a terrible time with, understanding skin tones. And I would show my headshots to an expert and he was constantly saying, your skin tone's wrong. It's too orange. It's too gray. I'm looking at it. It looks normal to me.
Yeah.
And finally, I mean, it just takes time to develop that eye where you can see, okay, yeah, now I can see it's leaning towards the greens. It's leaning towards the yellows, but it's part of the process of just constantly playing with color yourself.
And the problem with taking pictures of fish that can hold in one hand.
Okay,
And usually when I'm out the belly boat, and we don't want to take a $5,000 camera and out in the water, so I have an Olympus point and shoot underwater camera. So if it gets wet and stuff, but it doesn't have the right color balance, and when I look at the fish, it looks good, but my hand is red. And so I go in there and adjust the red color balance to make it more flesh tone, and it's trial and error.
yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's
You might consider having a color checker with you. So that which a color checker looks like a little set of squares of all different colors, so that you can have something that's a go by. Although color checkers are not cheap, so you wouldn't want to drop those in the water either. Okay, let's go on to technique. Technique is putting all these skills together. How you pose, how you create the successful capture. And some of the considerations are, is it just a snapshot? Is it just a fun photo that you happen to take? Is it boring? Does it have distracting backgrounds? Eye catchers, mergers. I'm going to talk about mergers in a minute. You want the viewer's eye to stay in the photo. You don't want to let that viewer escape and go on to something else. So this is pretty messy. and the lighting is awful. But we're gonna kind of keep this, just keep this as a thought. Now I've moved to the other side of this hedgerow. This is, you know, slightly better, it's better lighting. It's a slightly different location. Up here, that's distracting and ugly. We got eye catchers. Eye catchers catch your eye as far as it might be like a splash of white or something very dark. Things with high contrast, whether it's whiter than everything else or darker than everything else, your eye's gonna go right to it. And you don't want your eye going right to something unless you want them to go to it, but typically you don't want, you don't want your eye to be going to this big splash of light. Also, this is a little brighter down here. We've got, oh, I know, I took out, hang on a second, let me go back. There's a lot of stuff down here that is also eye catchers. This is an eye catcher. There's some eye catchers down here, just little white pebbles all over the place. So I'm taking all those out. That's a merger. You can see that it almost looks like a potato back there. Want to take that out because that's distracting. How many people just kind of, you already saw that. You saw that there was something weird under the log. Well, take it out. My eye is being led right out of the photo from these bright parts of the branches, but do something about those. And here we go. This is what I did to counteract all of those problems. You can see the merger is gone down here. All the ugly stuff is now cropped out. The eye catcher here and over here, all those are now gone. I also took out the light that was leading your eye away from the photo. And I took out the ugly stuff, took out the merger, took out all the eye catchers. And there's my final image.
Could you go back to
The original?
the untouched one?
Okay, I'm gonna go all the way back. Oh, not that one, because that's not the same place. There you go.
Okay, thanks.
So just taking all that stuff out.
So with all the changes that you did,
Yeah,
could you still enter that into competition?
yes, but I need to be careful that it's not, that I'm entering it in a category that allows for those kind of changes. And landscapes, most of the landscape categories you can take things out. You gotta be careful though, especially with long exposures, to make sure that that light is believable. Because, you see that there's light coming here, there's light coming from this direction and this direction. If I had had this side lighter, it would not have been as believable. You've got to be careful with your direction of light. In this is a 36 image stack. Also, if you're replacing skies, make sure that the light from your sky is going in the same direction as your, as the light that's coming in for your subject. Okay, we're almost done, I think. Let's see. Yep, last one, number 12. Thank you for your patience here. Storytelling. Okay, so what you want to do is to have an interesting story. And this one really caught my eye, not only because of the cowboy and steer wrestling, love photographing steer wrestling. And here it is in color. But also these three women back there and how they're just going, oh, they're really concerned for this cowboy. And that's to me what makes this photo so special. And the name of this photo is Exhale. And in competition, in international competition, this came in 5th. So this is my highest scoring image in international competition. I got a gold medal. By the way, also storytelling, I think you can all relate to this. Call this get out of my shot. By the way, this happens to be my friend Michael, and he said, hey, Ellen, I see what you're taking. You mind if I get in there? And I said, oh, sure, go ahead. So he wasn't like some really rude tourist or anything, but still, I thought that was a funny image. Here, very exuberant people. I entitled this, by the way, Winner, Winner, Chicken Dinner. And when I put this up to the judges, it did not score well because there is no chicken in the photo. This is not, here again, it's not being true to the subject matter is not being true to my storytelling. So I said, oh, okay. So I changed it to Winner, Winner, Hawaiian Dinner, and it was better. So, by the way, just to really quickly put this all together using Lightroom and Photoshop, just to get, so that you guys get an idea. I mean, my photos don't come out of my camera, not all of them, and for sure not all of them, looking absolutely stunning. People who come up to me and they say, oh, I never have to use Photoshop or something like that. Well, they're missing out on a really cool opportunity to make their photos look that much better. Here we go. Here's the overpass again. Some of the things that we were just talking about. Here's the lighting, center of interest, leading lines and center of interest, complementary colors. This has storytelling because I entitled it The Irony of Distant Fires. And that's because we had an incredibly beautiful sunset, but it was because of the fires that were going on the other side of the Continental Divide. If you like the idea of competing, I highly recommend that you go to the Image Critique Show. That is Rick Avalos and Jeff Johnson. And if you remember, they were here in the spring for a presentation. They have critiques where you enter your photos for $10 each every fourth Thursday of the month. And then finally, if you want to find me, I'm right there. I also queued up some of the Image Critique Show if you're interested, but I know this has been an hour, so I'm happy to stop here, or if you want to see a little bit of an Image Critique Show, I've got that ready to go.
You know, I have one question. The gentleman that's running the computer to the left here, I'm looking at the screen here, and I look at your photos. The screen really doesn't give
we
the
recognize
depth and the color. I mean, it's
the projector is pretty bad.
I know, but I mean, I look, just glancing at the photos that you took, you know, and that are on the computer, they are phenomenal. I mean, the screen really doesn't give you the.
No, it doesn't.
Compliment you and your abilities.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We all got tired of complaining about the projector, so I should have mentioned that everything looks better on the
It's
laptop.
substantial. I mean, it's really like the last one, when you had the one about the fires, the colors, I mean, just leap out at you. I mean, the depth of it and the contrast, and the screen it doesn't give you what is it, the compliment, like I was saying, compliments or it doesn't show your abilities as much as the computer did.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, the screen is definitely
Yeah, I'm
not.
gonna start recommending people bring their own computer and watch it on Zoom.
There you go.
I have yet to see a projector in this like $1,000 range for a projector and under that really does get justice to the pictures.
No, but they do a lot better than this.
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely, but I think that's just kind of inherent. The Kodak with their ectographic projectors, when you were doing 35mm slides. They had 100 years worth of technology in that, and when you looked at 35mm slide and projected it on the white screen, it was exactly the same.
Mm,
They had the right wavelength and light involved and stuff, and they just haven't gotten that with the digital. I imagine if you buy a $10,000 projector, you probably wouldn't get it.
I don't know. So, any questions?
I see none online.
Okay, yeah, Penny?
So I guess I'm still not, I mean, I guess technique is kind of combining all of this stuff, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure what technique was and separate from the other elements.
Well, technique is really essentially the quality of the image and how you get there. What your choices were to create a cohesive photograph. It's funny because there's technical excellence of the 12 elements. There's technical excellence and technique. So it's kind of this, so it's a little bit, to me, there's overlap. There's overlap in a lot of these. But I was just following exactly what PPA has set out. Professional Photographers of America, if I haven't said that, just to let you know that especially when people are discussing your image and they say the 12 elements, now you know what they're talking about, because that's the standard, is the 12 elements.
So on Zoom, we got one comment when you put up the board image. Kate Doherty said, "Star Trek!" exclamation point.
Well, it's, yeah, I think that might have been one of my, prompts was, steampunk, Game of Thrones, Borg, Star Trek, all of that. I think submarine was also one of the prompts because it's kind of in a submarine setting. I think I also put lights, saying with lights. So it was it was a paragraph of prompts to get this image
Into the Photoshop generative AI dialogue.
in AI, yeah.
Did you build on one prompt after another, or did you write one great big long paragraph?
This one was one great big long paragraph and then seeded with the photo on the left. The other, the teddy bear, okay, first I got the teddy bear and it's a sad teddy bear, and then I wanted it in a warehouse, in a gloomy warehouse, and it gave it to me without very much real estate around the teddy bear. And I told it to expand. I wanted to see more of the environment, and that's how I did that.
Audubon magazine had some AI generated photos of birds in a natural environment. About a year ago in their magazine. And it went through and explained how you could tell some of these photos that were AI generated. You know, the shadows weren't quite right, and there were other aspects that you could look at, but you really had to look close at the photograph. If you just looked at it, it looked really good. And then you start looking at detail in there and you see things don't quite line up.
If you on Zoom couldn't hear Ron's talking about an Audubon magazine article from a year or so ago. I'd like to see that, Ron, if you bring it sometime, I would love to see that. Okay, where they were doing Audubon images of birds and all AI, and how you had to look to see what the mistakes were and the shadows and the lighting, and
Yeah,
it's kind of like,
you can see the shadow isn't quite right for those the window direction.
well, it's backlit. So
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with the shadows. I wouldn't, cause you just don't know. You don't know if there's a light source, where the light sources are, but, I'd like more of a catch light in its eye. I got one catch light, not two. But, yes,
I have one other question. I was reading, looking at some stuff on YouTube and things like that. And one of the photographers, I think it's Steve Perry or maybe somebody else, but they were talking about the sharpness in the photo. And when you're shooting like animals or something like that, he said to blow it up like about 200%. And it'll give you like, especially if you're like focusing on the eye, you can tell if the image is soft. That was one of his suggestions, or I don't know if it was his or someone else. But I started doing some of that and I didn't realize, how much, how soft some of your images can be. Because you can run them through like Topaz AI or something like this, and they can correct a lot of the problems that you have on your photos sometimes on sharpness.
sure. Well, if your camera has eye focus in it, that helps too. We're talking about focusing on the eye. It is psychologically disturbing to have the eyes out of focus in wildlife and, well, even humans. So you want to have those eyes sharp. It's like, it's essentially, to me, it's a requirement in a photo of a person that those eyes are sharp, and to use, if it's a really important photo and you did not get the eyes sharp, and you mentioned several things, the Topaz photo AI is great for that little bit that you need to sharpen it up. It saved my bacon a couple of times. Are we good?
Kathy Allen Shin has typed in, thank you, Ellen, wonderful presentation. I think we all agree.
Oh, sweet, thank you. Well, I appreciate it, everybody.